Hi friends, family and listeners of the podcast. Today's a special one. It's a Christmas special. I hope you're all feeling in the festive spirit. I'm joined by two people that have made the podcast happen. Episode number 2 guest, Lewis McFarlane. Episode number 4 guest, Colin Campbell. And I just want to say off the bat, thank you for promoting my podcast and sharing your notes, Colin. The reason this podcast basically started was from your encouragement, your roadmap, and the reason I've got at least some following and some listeners is because of you, Lewis. So thank you. And I want to thank, it's okay, mate. And I want to thank the listeners as well, because when I did my Spotify Unwrapped, over 100 of you listened to this podcast more than other podcasts, and that's just extreme. Like that's for me overwhelming. So thank you for tuning in, and hopefully today's a reward for that, because I'm hoping to deliver some comedy, and I hope these guys can bring some too.
There'll be some value in amongst it as well, I think.
Some.
We'll do our best.
2 inches worth.
2 inches. 8 inches worth, don't you mean?
It depends on your measurement scale and how you view things.
Yeah.
So lads, Room 101, I'm excited for it. I think it's probably good to set the scene for the listeners, because Room 101 might be an unknown.
Yeah, I didn't know what Room 101 was before you actually mentioned it.
Is it based off of George Orwell's book?
Yeah, so I've read 1984, and Room 101 is like a re-education space almost that you don't come back from. But the TV program, which I believe that we're going to go in that direction, is more like celebrities telling like things that they just hate and want rid of. Like kind of like I've heard people talk about putting things like in the rocket before and like sending it away from the earth, and it's a similar concept to that I think we're going to try and go for.
Yeah,
I love that.
So essentially a hypothetical room where we banish things from existence, right? Where we put our pet peeves and our pet hates.
And people as well, yeah?
And
people.
Okay. We know where your list is going, Cole.
Just like Australia is doing right now.
And they've got camps, but we don't talk about them.
Is that too I didn't know if I want to say that, but you know, I said it.
Oh, mate, totally. Okay, so in turns,
Okay.
we'll go around and we'll mention one pet peeve or one pet hate, and the other guests will interrogate it a little bit, add some commentary, and then in a democratic sense, we'll both take a vote on if it belongs in Room 101 or it doesn't. How does that sound, lads?
Okay,
I'm
sounds good to
excited.
me.
Will I go first?
Yep.
I
Pass
think
the parcel, mate. Let's do it.
Okay. Start with me, then to Cole, back to you, Lewis, okay? All good. Okay, I'll go first. Okay, the first one I have, and this does my absolute titties in, is the Google, is it reCAPTCHA security mechanism? Like, I have never been more degraded or patronized in my life. Like, I can obviously tell the difference between an umbrella, a road sign, and a fire hydrant, but I get it wrong every single time. Every single time.
I think that's harsh. because is that not like that's designed to be like entry level so that bots can't mass replicate whatever they're doing, so like mass input on Google. So like, is it when like you click like, oh, this one has a fire hydrant or this one is like traffic lights? Mm-hmm. How are you missing the traffic lights?
Yeah, that's pretty like kindergarten level.
To be honest, I think it usually, how am I going to phrase this? I think it usually appears when you Google something contentious. But usually when I'm Googling something contentious, it's not what you might think. It's when I'm probably a little bit drunk at a bar, trying to include myself in a conversation I have no idea about. So I'm slamming away at the keyboard trying to understand who Anthony Hopkins is in his background so I can join a conversation. But I've accidentally misplaced a couple of letters and Google doesn't recognise it. So Room 101?
Room 101, mate. I don't want to put that away. I think it saves a lot of unnecessary stress.
Do you think it saves unnecessary stress?
Well, its main function, isn't it, is to stop bots like mass inputting stuff, because normally it comes up. I don't have it on Google very often. I have it more like not when I search
the deep dark
something.
web.
Yeah, when I'm trying to purchase certain things. But no, it's more for me when you're trying to. It's normally after you log into something for the first time in a while or whatever. It's like verifying you, or like when you're trying to set up a password on or an account on something. I find it in that instance, but I don't find it regularly on Google. It must be what you're searching, David.
When Instagram just boots you off for a laugh.
And you're logging in through desktop or
Yeah,
something.
you're sweating a little bit trying to log back in.
Yeah, you don't want to talk
years
about that,
of
do we?
years of work lost overnight because of something that makes no sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not Room 101 for you guys.
I think it'd be harsh to put it in there, David. I'm surprised you're as annoyed about it as you are. I think it's probably the friction created by your brain being at less capacity because you're drunk when you're encountering it.
Yeah, you said you were drunk, so you weren't cognizant.
It's not even that. It's like from an efficiency point of view. Sometimes I just need a bit of I need an answer to something really quickly, and it needs to be done there, and now. And there's just a little bit of friction between me and what I want, and it just adds a microfracture to my day.
I just practice delayed gratification.
What I'm searching for will be worth it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
If I identify these fire hydrants.
Yeah.
I think it's your turn now, Cole.
Okay. So because Lewis and I both partake heavily in the fitness and David dabbles when he's on his best behaviour.
Yeah. Dabbles is a great word for it.
At times, all in.
Yeah, like
Other times, like the opposite.
it's so far right.
Sparking a monster at like 8 o'clock at night. Being like, oh yeah, it's a fitness drink. Being like,
Blue
David,
light
your
blockers.
recovery's gone through the floor.
Yeah.
I need to recover from something to start with.
Yeah, fair. Some mad stimulus. So because it's a fitness one, I want to put like the phrase, I couldn't diet like you because I just love food too much. I want to put that in room 101. And you must get this a little bit loose as well. People assume because you diet quite hard and you get quite lean that you must just despise food and like have an aversion to eating a certain amount of calories or a certain type of food, or like particularly like calorie dense, like very hyper palatable foods. They just assume like, oh, because you regularly get lean or diet, you must just hate those. So I want to put that phrase in there because it's just an incredible level of assumption. Like some of the people that I know that get in the best shape and have to restrict themselves quite heavily and dial things in, when they're not doing that, they absolutely love eating out. They like Michelin star restaurants. They like good quality meals. To assume that somebody, just because they achieve a certain level of fitness, must just have it different, must be differently wired to you. Oh, I just love food too much. No, you don't, mate. Like we all are evolutionarily designed to love food and want to eat to excess because in order to stay alive, get kind of fatten up for the winter and make sure that we're gonna make it through the harsh period.
Yeah. Get that in the room, mate. Yeah, 100%. I'm backing that 100%.
What kind of stuff do you get when you diet, Lewis? Like people just not getting it?
I'm going to use it from a client's perspective because a lot of people say food's my issue. I just love food so much, kind of like you said, right? And my answer to that is food does not control you. Your emotions control you, right? So it's behind that. It's like, let's look at your time management. Let's look at every other aspect of your life that controls you, that leads you to want to use food as an escapism. It's not food that you love. It's like the feeling of just stuffing your face and disconnecting that you love. Everyone, like, it could be drugs, booze, whatever else. You love that because it takes you away from the issue which you're actually facing. But to be honest, yeah, food's not the issue here. Like, you can diet and eat whatever you kind of want. You just have to, practice that delayed gratification, like we called earlier.
And for me, there's like a kind of macro overarching room 101 item for me on this. I was going to add it to my list before I filtered it down, but it's essentially not starting something because you're a perfectionist. Like you don't have to have your diet to the nth carb or macro or calorie to make progress. And I think just in a more broader sense, people don't want to start that podcast, that business, that apparel brand because they want to be a perfectionist. And they know they're going to fail 8, 9, 10 times before they get there.
I think I just want to highlight. I done a photo shoot maybe 2 months ago, and I drank. I've not got an alcohol problem, but I like beer. Right, pretty much drank about 2 beers every night, the whole way up through that shoot and to the shoot, and got to the body fat I want to get to for that shoot. Didn't give up anything that I wanted at all, and that's what it is. Like you just exercise that moderation. It's like the people who would say. What was that again?
I love food too much to diet.
Yeah,
like you
don't need to hate food to diet. Yeah. You don't need to love it either. You just got to balance it and enjoy it. So yeah, get that in the room, lock it away. Anyone who follows that or preaches that, they can go with it.
It's just an excuse, isn't it? And it's definitely going to room 101.
3-pointer straight. Yeah,
it's a wee story somebody likes to tell themselves because they don't want to deal with the issue. That's it.
Yeah, bang on.
Mr. McFarlane, your turn.
Okay, right. This one here, give you all a wee laugh. And we're going to keep it gym related, right? Okay. First time I heard about Room 101, right? David said this, like, and I started thinking it. I've probably ruminated on this probably for like a couple of months since she said it. But see, people in like an open gym, could be a leisure centre, not even like extreme gym where you could potentially get away with this. But people dropping their trousers around their ankles and hitting a heave and flex take their t-shirt off when there's like Janet, the 63-year-old pensioner, doing like a lateral fly. There's this guy squeezing out his head with his Slazenger joggies around his ankles, like stinking of dog biscuits, just flexing. I hate that. Like, especially like I remember I was working at a gym years ago, and a guy just came in and just took his t-shirt off while I was doing a class, and just started doing. It's just like flexing. That brought up the that memory. I think that has to go. I think that's so fucked.
Just bad behaviour, isn't it?
I think specifically it's the big bodybuilders who try to flex their big quad muscles, and by doing so they put it's always grey joggers as well at their ankles, and it looks like they've geared themselves to tens, but someone scanted them, and then it's like instantly emasculating them.
Yeah. Huge muscular men, like just in the most kind of like vulnerable childlike position. Like remember when in primary school you'd go into the guys' toilets in the urinals, and sometimes the younger kids wouldn't have figured out that they could just like sneak their cock through their trousers. Instead they've just dropped their trousers to the floor and they're standing there, and you're like, right, okay, well nobody's taught you yet how to like open your trousers. And see for the bodybuilders that are dropping their trousers entirely, have they never thought about just wearing like really short shorts?
Or just taking them off.
That's the thing. Bodybuilders have to wear max amount of clothing, and it says Muscle Factory on every item.
Or Monster
Factory. Yeah, that's it. They have to be as hot and as sweating. Every set requires one layer to come off, and it's a 30 set workout, so 30 layers have to be on first and foremost before the stripping towards the latter of the sets comes into fruition. So yeah, like the pump has to be showing no matter what gym you're in.
And at the end,
enough
you just peel off all the layers, but not fully. Just like they could be retrieved at any moment.
They're in an
if your modesty arrived back within your faculties, you could seize the joggers and raise them again. But at this moment in time, the most important thing is for people to see everything, but apart from your ankles.
I've found a couple.
All bodybuilders.
I'm the opposite though. My ankles are out at all times.
I've actually been quite partial to finding a sock in the Smith machine once or twice, just from one of those strip teases that happens in the local gym. Jesus, Billy, is that your sock? Yeah, left it over there.
You found loose socks in the gym?
Loose socks, mate. Pants, t-shirts, just scattered across the gym. Then you're like, where is that? And you look in the corner, and there he is. Trousers down to the ankle. Give it up. Not actually taking the piss, but. Yeah,
but I would firmly agree that you should go on room 1-1.
Yeah, it's also, you mentioned there about the other people within the gym as well. It's like an intimidating thing to do.
100%. It's a tough place going into the gym for the first time. I remember a bodybuilder called me Dobby once for wearing a tank top when I was, I think I was sub 60 kilo at the time. Young, new at the gym. Yeah,
Great proportions though.
No.
I think that one.
Come a long way.
Yeah.
I think that one's reminded me of one that's not on my list, but I do want to add. And it's...
Is this your official one you're submitting forward now?
Unofficial, official.
Right, okay.
It's not on the paper, but it's in the mind and I want to get it out there. Unsolicited, naked baby pics on Facebook.
Sorry?
That sounds strange out of context, but people who post on social media pictures of their baby, but...
I don't get a lot of this. So
right, so
no, you have seen that before.
Have you ever seen the Nirvana cover of the naked baby swimming?
Yeah.
Do you know actually that baby grew up not knowing it was that baby and then sued Nirvana for fucking millions in later years?
Really? Yeah, incredible. Yeah. Great fact list.
So I just thought I'd drop that. That was
but
as much as I know about naked kids.
I've seen, for more context, I've seen pictures, like professional pictures of babies, and they're perhaps their dad's arms folded in certain ways. They're cute, but they're naked. There's not bits out, but they're naked.
Yeah.
And I just think that's weird.
Is this like how often have you seen this?
Oh,
that's when you go searching and those like blockers come up. No. You have to get through.
No.
The Google recap is there for a reason at that point.
And a bar drunk at night. Let's see.
But genuinely, I'm interested. How often is this coming up on your Facebook feed? Enough for you to be bothered.
Every 6 months to a year.
You do come from press.
And I think it's probably I think it's a signal of where I come from.
No, you said it was professional photos though. Like, these people are getting photos like their new child, like Like
It's
a
like
nice
yeah,
photo
I've
of
seen like
us.
folded up in their arm, but they're just born naked, and there's no bits out. But
The
Yeah, the
people
baby's
who
naked,
get the people who get the portrait pictures of the newborn, like Chantel and wee Dino with their new kid, the black and white portrait from. Yeah, I can imagine it. I'm seeing it. I'm starting to put things together
I
in
mean,
my
that's
head
room
here.
101. It's just creepy, innit?
Yeah,
Like put your baby in
Cot
like
101.
a
Call 101.
put it in like a cute onesie or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there we go. I'm glad we could agree. Hot seat.
Oh, my turn.
Yep. Pass the mighty torch.
So we'll move away from fitness. Okay. People not feeling the benefit. So you need to feel the benefit. And this is a lesson that if you were well raised, your mother would hopefully have taught you. Now, it's winter, okay? You've got your jacket on. You get onto the train or the bus or a taxi, or you get into the office, you get into the restaurant. You should be taking your jacket off, because when you go back outside, if you kept your jacket on and you go back outside from this warm place, you're not going to feel the benefit. So people who were not raised properly will keep their jacket on and all their layers on inside, in the office, on the train. You should be taking that jacket firmly off in order to feel the benefit when you get outside. I'm quite passionate about this because there's a virus going around, in case you hadn't heard.
Really?
But there's also a number of other viruses as well. There's chills, there's colds, and you make yourself more susceptible by not feeling warm when you're outside. So by not taking advantage of the warmth of inside, if you live in a place with central heating, which many of us are fortunate enough to do, then you should be taking your jacket off when you're inside, and then feel the benefit when you go outside.
What if man's not hot?
Now, people like him, like, he just flies in the face of it, and you just have to hear him talk and like his general logic to life and like how he communicates. That I'm not taking his logic on board. He's
Okay.
not a clever man.
Do you think many people would have an argument against you though? I think that's a kind of universal.
But yet we see people wearing the jackets. I was on the train yesterday. This is December, and everyone's kept their jacket on.
How long were there? You wouldn't know this. But
Yeah, okay.
how
okay.
long are there?
Valid. I was on the train from Manchester to Glasgow, so it's like a 3-hour train, and there was a lot of people who
Trains
were
are
on
hot,
for
man.
the duration. Trains are hot,
Yeah,
so
Stuffy.
man would be hot.
I'm be very.
I would
hot.
think, but I think maybe it's a status symbol. He's got like a Canada Goose or something like that, so
Yeah.
I'd keep it on.
No, I
It's a
agree.
statement more than anything else.
I agree.
these days.
Similarly, I had a mate training for the Marines, I think, and he was doing like weighted cold water plunges.
It's kettlebell.
li-
Jump off the pier.
Honestly, literally, at night he was just training himself. And I said, well, do you do cold showers when you're in the shower? And he went, fuck no. If I can take a hot shower, I'm going to take a hot shower, because when I'm deployed in the Marines, I don't know when my next hot shower is. And I was like, fair play, mate. Fair play.
That's interesting. What a strange contrast, though,
Yeah.
to like forced extreme suffering and then
Reward.
traveling comfort.
Take it while it comes. I guess.
Firmly agree, room 101.
Yeah, take off your jacket, man.
Do you have friends that you've gone to like nightclubs with and they just refuse to use the cloakroom?
I see it. I've seen it off. I used to go nightclubs and stuff a lot, and there's always that one guy. Just because he's got on a jacket, he will wear it the whole night, and he'd be pissing a
In
sweat.
like sub club or somewhere like that, and you're like,
Somebody-
you are mental, mate. Like, pay the £1.50 for the cloakroom.
Somebody's dropped a double and they're dancing with a Canada Goose on. He's due a heart attack. Get him a water. Get him a £1.50.
But it's gonna be cold when he's outside,
Yeah.
That's when the chill's sitting. That's when you're
and he won't be well.
No.
He might test positive for
something.
yeah.
Omicron. The new variant.
What's next, Lewis?
Right, let's go. Okay. Poor personal responsibility. Adopting the victim's mindset in all avenues in life. I think a lot of people love to complain or blame, and they're the last people to take ownership or responsibility for the circumstances in which they've found themselves in. And you're the first one to know about it, but they're the last ones to take an understanding behind implementation, behind changing that. So being a coach, I run into this 9 out of 10 clients. It just happened. It's something you have to steer around. But what is your guys' opinions on, let's say you've got somebody in the workforce or the workplace or whatever. Again, I work with myself. No one around. So. Anyway, you probably have it. People around you that are super stressed, issues with I don't know, their partner, whatever else it may be, but you always see them complaining about it and not doing anything to change their course of direction. What do you feel about that personally?
I think personally, no one else is responsible for your own happiness.
Yeah.
And until I think you should, and this is, I'm seeing life through my own lens, but I think you should try and change everything in your own locus of control, in your own environment that you physically can, until you become somewhat dependent on others to help you along that journey. If you have changes that you can make at your fingertips, and you have mustered up enough energy to do so, then yeah, go ahead and do that first. But then again, I need to sympathize with people who are perhaps in a point in their life where they don't have that internal belief. They might be suffering from something, for perhaps a mental health condition, where they can't muster up the light at the end of the tunnel, and then can't go on and make that change personally. But I think if you have that motivation, you have that drive, and it's at your fingertips, then yeah, I agree, having a victim mindset is not going to help.
Otherwise, I want to actually hear your take on it, your 2 cents.
Passing the buck is so universally accepted and so embraced in the modern age that personal responsibilities become like unfashionable. And for it shouldn't be in the circles that we maybe speak in. Personal responsibility is quite a big thing, and everyone's like quite on it. But as soon as you speak to like the wider society, you find that it's actually very common to just be like quite pleased to be like, oh, it was such and such fault. Even in work, sometimes you'll speak to somebody and they won't be maybe as growth mindseted as you are, and they can't wait to blame like another department, or oh, that bitch Susan from accounts, and you're like, she's absolutely done nothing. That was you. That was entirely your fault. That was entirely your own mistake. And there was so much that you could control, which was what you were going towards, David, like controlling the controllables that you have. And I know Jordan Peterson is not for everyone, but he has some general philosophies that are quite helpful for people when it comes to like a bit of ownership over some of the things that are within your wheelhouse and within what you can govern. And it's about like making your bed, for example. Like if you can't govern your own space and make your own bed every morning when you get up, then you've not really got a right to go out and govern the rest of the world. So like you could strip that back or turn its head or whatever way you want to do it, to be personally responsible for some of the things that you can control, like making your own bed, like standing up straight, being presentable, like putting your best self out to the world, rather than immediately, as you were saying, Lewis, like adopting like a victim mentality. Like if you can't even do the little things, then of course you're going to moan and worry about how the big things have been impacted by somebody else.
And I had the pleasure of having Ben Williams from Commando Mindset on the podcast the other night. You've interviewed him as well, and he has this framework of ARA, which is accept the circumstances or environment or changes. Remove emotion, so you don't tie your own emotions to the outcome of your next steps. And then I think the last one is adapt. So adapt to the circumstances without emotion, and go ahead. And I think that was really, really powerful. And he said, by removing emotion doesn't mean you're cold. It just means that you're not bleeding into someone else's life because of your own circumstances and your own worldview. And I found that framework particularly empowering. And I guess maybe not for everyone, but I had the pleasure to interview him, and I'm not sure if he brought that to life in your podcast at all.
Yeah, we spoke about ARA, particularly how he applied that framework when the bomb went off in Afghanistan, and one of his colleagues was killed. But I think ARA, it's very, very useful in terms of removing the personal attachment to that particular circumstance. But then, of course, you need to add in the fact that you're personally responsible for the outcome that you can govern. So, Lewis, firmly on board that people need to take more responsibility.
You need to be almost like, to actually take the responsibility in the first place, though, you have to have some form of like self-compassion to realise it's only you that can change it. And you've got to respect yourself enough to know that. And it's hard to find that, but I think, as you always say, take action on that. If it's even, I'm so low in energy, why am I feeling this way? Well, drink some more water instead of ramming down just coffee after coffee or something. Just to be simple things like that. And again, coach comes in my head first more than anything else. So everything I'll speak about is always relevant to a client that I've potentially helped. And it's like the first way for them to make any change starts with them actually realising it's up to them to fucking do it. Like straight off the bat, if they're in a poor state of physical or mental health to begin with, yes or no, it's no one can do it for them, you know. And that compassion off of themselves to know it's up to you, mate, to lean in is the only thing that's going to get that momentum going for their state to change. you know.
Really interesting to hear how you work, mate, and how you think and how you apply that to clients. Room 101 call?
Yeah, 100%.
I'd say room 101.
What's your a wee point? Going here. Yeah,
I'll move this to a more light-hearted room 101 item. Aeroplane jostles. Like unnecessary amounts of movement in a plane cabin before or after the plane's taken off. Like the seatbelt sign will be on, but people will be like grabbing their Louis Vuitton bag off like from the overheads. And people like they think that by moving a lot they're going to get out of the plane faster when the doors haven't even opened yet. It grinds my gears.
I fucking love that
Jostling for
one.
position then to get off, basically.
To get off, even armchair space as well. Just unnecessary amounts of movement on an airplane.
Is that? Do you mean like planes landed? Woman at the, let's say, the window seat is already clawing over the two people in the outer seats to get her bag, and there's still like 10 rows of people in the front. She ain't moving, but she's trying to move as much as possible to get ahead, but she's...
Yeah, or people trying to like squeeze, like everyone stood up in the middle aisle and people are trying to squeeze past because their bag's at the other end, even though the door's going to open at a single time and everyone's going to leave within seconds of each other.
Yeah, you get it in the train as well, yeah. It's just bad etiquette.
It grinds my gears.
What kind of mentality is that though? Is that like panic?
Self-importance, maybe?
Like,
but the return on investment is just so low at that point. Like you're gonna get off roughly at the same time. It's the same as like certain people like speeding just a little bit over the speed limit. You're like, you shaved like no time off your journey whatsoever for infinitely more risk or danger.
100%. And I think you'll probably create more mental strain as well, because these people don't just frantically grab their bags. They have a strategic plan of, right, I'm going to get up when the person on my right makes a move. I'm going to skip these 4 people and then hopefully I'll be 5 minutes in front of what I should be. I think there's going to be a lot of mental strain tied to that as well. So room 101 for me, at the end of that room, furthest wall in that room.
Kudos on the word jostle.
Jostle.
Like that one.
Like jostling for position, There's immediate connotations in my head of people like unfairly trying to get themselves a bit of wiggle room, a bit of an advantage.
Yeah.
Your turn, Cole.
So this is to do with content creation and posting on Instagram. So we all know that TikTok as a separate platform, but on Instagram itself, Reels have become increasingly incentivized by the platform in terms of the reach that you'll get on there, and it'll go further and further and further. But some of the content that's being created is just so embarrassing and so low level, but relatively rewarded by the algorithm just based on how it's set up at the moment. And the worst one, in my opinion, is the one where, and if people are watching on YouTube, they'll see this, but most people know what I'm talking about. It's the one where there's the person standing in front of the camera, just themselves, and then they point to like the left, and a little speech thing appears. They point to the right, and they kind of dance to do this, and another little speech thing appears, and then they point to something else, and then finally they kind of put their hands down and then run their hands along like this, and underline like what the solution is. And it's really common in the fitness space where somebody's like, it's always about like
calorie
negative self-talk.
deficit. Donuts are bad.
Yeah, it's so bad, but it's normally like the opposite of that, Lewis, where it's like, it's okay to not diet on the weekend. Your time with your friends is important.
So
and then it'll be like, you are enough. And you're like, what was this about? Like, it's just virtue signaling nonsense. And it's always delivered in this kind of dancey, like smiling, like sociopathic way that is just so insincere. And it's just all these phrases that appeal to people who want to be the victim.
So some beautiful 1 million follower Instagram, like so hot, this super hot chick just...
It's the Savage Love Jason Derulo tune that's like that's in my head when they do it. It's the way they just like they sort of dance around, and it's just this like insincere, like, here's my solution. It's normally like buy my coaching or something like that. I was like, work with me, I'm so lovely. And you're like, this is just nonsense. It's content for the sake of it, and at the moment it's incentivized by the platform, so it's going to continue until obviously we just try and like report abuse.
It's like junk volume in the gym. Yeah. It's the exact same as that.
But they're doing okay with it at the moment, Lewis, unfortunately.
Yeah.
As much as I don't enjoy that content, I don't dislike it either. Like I just go past
partial,
it. I'm just partial to it, and you know it's coming as well, so you just know to skip. As much as I dislike it, I don't think it merits one of the chairs at the dining table of room 101 for me.
Yeah, I think it's just because I'm quite harsh about like the standard of content that I
Yeah.
consume online, and I'm so ruthless with like who I follow. At that point, I'm just like unfollowed. Like that's just nonsense. Like you've just sold out for the algorithm.
Not for me, thank you. Yeah. Probably more for Colin on this one, mate. Yeah.
There it goes. Room
There
101.
you go. Okay, let's have a wee look in the old Hurt Locker. See what we've got for you. Right. Let's have a wee look again. I'm not shooting at any of our personal trainers or coaches or anything, but this does actually annoy me being in the fitness industry for years, but tripod personal trainers, and if you don't know what that means, I'll elaborate, right? So let's say you're paying quite a high end rate, £30 to £50 an hour to a coach to take you through an hour long workout in a gym. Could be busy, quite intimidating as it is. But the trainer, for his own personal marketing, is filming everyone of Janet's sets. And just standing. And I've seen this so much, and moving online, I'm happy I don't need to see it as much anymore. But back when I worked in the gym, I always used to see a lot of coaches just film their entire client's workout. The form was good or bad, they could get an injury or not, but that ruffles my feathers, to be honest. Yeah, that.
Their number one priority was creating content to market rather than that actual presence in the moment.
Yeah.
The amount of time we've seen bad form in those videos. The amount of time. It's awful.
Mm-hmm.
And how much do people usually pay for something like a personal trainer on the
Literally,
ground?
if you're running your business smartly and doing a monthly, it could be, let's say you're paying anywhere between $250 and $400 a month to a coach to take you through these sessions. So for the standard person only making between $1,500 and $2,000 a month, it's
a percentage.
Huge percentage.
And do you think the clients are aware that that's what they're doing? And do you think they're aware how wrong their form is?
Clients are too intimidated if they've got a coach in the first place in the gym to sometimes even question it, which is a sad fact.
They'll also feel maybe a bit of gratification that they're being shared online as well.
And the industry standard is so low these days. Personal trainer is pretty much a tripod PT.
Room 101 for me, mate.
Yeah, I would agree. I think a lot of the time they're doing it for their own intents and purposes, and rather than delivering a session that's of a higher quality for like improvement and having a difficult conversation that you shouldn't be deadlifting 100 kilos.
Yeah.
David, you should be deadlifting
12.
60, and we'll try and get your form in
Yeah.
line. Not David. That was just an
The guy's too
articulate
busy,
name that
like-
sprung to mind.
Come on, Janet! Yes.
Yes.
Won't
more
be
like-
seeing her next week. How's that back injury? Come on.
Room 101.
Yeah, cool.
My next one, and I know this is not going to go into room 101 because of both of your tastes, but there's 2 food groups. 1, chips. 2, eggs. I think chips is... I don't understand the fetishization of fries and chips. I don't think it's the best side that you can order. I think a sweet potato fry, perhaps, or a mash, or a garlic bread, just not chips. I don't understand why some people go out and get a poke of chips. I just think they're flavourless. Leave your hands salted, covered in vinegar. Not for me. And then on the eggs front, I've often described eggs as the taste of nothing if nothing was out of date. And I like, worse than that are people who post videos. I just hate seeing it, of bursting the egg yolk and poached eggs. They deserve capital punishment. I hate those videos.
I know some people who do some really good poached eggs, and they're going to be so upset.
Lewis McFarlane's one of them. This man right here.
I don't have time for that shit. But I fucking love egg and chips, man. I'd eat that as a normal meal.
So if we separate the 2 food groups out,
Okay.
I don't think many people are going to back you on not liking chips because they are universally popular and a go-to.
We live in the UK.
Do you think they're overrated? Or do you think they're on par?
Like, if you were to go out for a poke of chips by themselves, absolutely overrated. Like,
Aye.
who is eating just a portion of chips themselves? Like, they've never been in a nutrition course with Lewis. Put it that way. That's just dreadful. But like potatoes themselves, what a food group, Lewis.
What a great... Like, don't even get me started on
Loves
potatoes, eggs, whole food, nutrient dense. Love it.
Eggs, oh, they're hit and miss, aren't they? Some people don't like eggs. Like there are people who'll be like screaming down their AirPods that eggs are rubbish, like get them in room 101, and other people like
Poaches and
no,
sourdough.
yeah. No, but even like basics like scrambled egg on toast, like that's a solid breakfast. I enjoy that. That's the basic entry level to a solid high protein breakfast. And I think your disdain for them is just driven on taste buds.
No, more than that.
Smell.
I try to progressively overload eggs.
All right, okay. Talk to me about that.
Honestly,
Phase 1.
How many sets?
I did a 5x5 egg split for 5 weeks. No,
How strong did you get? Or how fat did you get?
I started on scrambled, got to poached, but honestly, I tried to enjoy eggs, right? And I started by taking eggs to work in a little Tupperware dish. And this time I was training in the morning at the local gym, and I would go straight from the gym to work. And this is before casual dress was appropriate in the office, so I was wearing suits every single day. And to mask the flavour of nothingness, if nothingness was out of date, I would put a shed load of chili flakes, garlic, the rest of it, in this Tupperware with the eggs, and I'd put it in my gym bag. And at the same time, my suit was in the gym bag. You know what happens next?
I think
see when we're talking about like progressive overload with eggs, like you're starting at like the hack squat to failure with like more than your body weight on it, because that's disgusting.
Prison sentence eggs.
I've never had eggs like
cold, sweaty.
Oh no, it wasn't cold. I'd take it into the office and heat it up, but it was the
recooked eggs though, mate. Like
no, they weren't cooked. It was just the egg whites with the flavourings in, and I would go and take them into the office.
Sounds grim though.
That's fucked, brother. No wonder you've done your
PTSD from
do you know
eggs.
what? Like,
have you ever had like a nice poached on like sourdough bread from like a brunch place in Glasgow?
Yeah, but it would have like avocado and like siracha on it, so I wouldn't taste
it's
the egg.
unfair. It's not a fair comparison, right? Okay.
I once done that with Weetabix. Right, I'll tell you the story. When I was on my first,
That's more common though, isn't it? Like, and Weetabix in a Tupperware, I've seen that.
No, but the progressive overload of the food went from I think I was like 72 kilo, and I went up to 86 over the course of 7 months or something.
Soft bod, mate. You would be soft.
I was thick for my size, yeah. I am strong, thick though. I went from 2 Weetabix a day to 18 over the course of a 7-month period.
Cost effective? Should have sponsored you or something.
The amount of fibre I was taking in was not effective for the digestive tract. But that's I understand the progressive overload, mate. But that's the
18 biscuits of Weetabix a day. I've not had 18 anything in a day.
I actually got to the point I couldn't actually buy Weetabix. Weetabix. I had to buy wheat biscuits by Aldi because the inflation. It just became fucking crazy, man. Trying to keep up, but yeah, like progressive overload food. That's a surefire way to burn your bridges with it.
But like, you could have had nicer eggs than what you did to yourself.
Yeah.
So listen,
that would put me off a food group.
This is why I speak with wise people like you on a podcast. I'm learning.
What about the chips though? What happened? Was there something happening?
Yeah, I was gonna say, because you're gonna tell us now, like, I had these chips from this random chippy that served them cold. Like,
there's probably a seagull moment down the beach in Youre as a kid.
Trauma.
Yeah, always goes back to your childhood.
Eggs and chips are not going to room 101.
Nah,
and you even opened with, this will not go in room 101.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You just wanted to get it out there to the public. Like, somebody will mess you off the back of this podcast and reciprocate with your madness.
This is where I test if I've got true fans. If I've got people patting me in the back in the DMs like, go you, David, stick up for what you believe in. I'll know.
Stick up for what you believe in, but you are wrong.
It's fine to have an opinion.
I'll face it.
Right, we'll see what you think of this one. We still have, at this moment in time, daylight savings time. So twice a year, we change the clocks, either forward or backwards. They spring forward or they turn backwards. Get rid of it. Just pointless.
What was it used for? Was it for saving daylight for farmers in the morning? Or is that, did I just pull that from
at school, they used to always say, it's to make the light the morning lighter for you walking to school. But then I would think, well, I walk home in the dark. So what's the, like, are we under more threat from like abduction on the way to primary school by walking in the morning? What about after school? Like, are we not in danger then?
I've not met many dangerous men in my life or women in my life, but I just couldn't imagine them lingering about in the morning. I think it would be evening.
Yeah, so would you not rather the lighter evening?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. So I believe the EU had proposed that we standardised like not changing the clocks back and forth, because obviously the time difference moves between nations.
I just find
But
it
we,
quite
we stuck with it
confusing.
for a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
quite annoying.
Ruins your sleep pattern as well, and I'm big on circadian rhythm.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone actually knows if it goes forward or back and when they change. They just see it on Twitter, they see it on Instagram, or someone on Facebook shares
Your
it.
iPhone does it automatically now as well, which is just great.
I'm an alarm clock guy, so that
Okay,
really,
I respect that.
That really sets me off kilter.
And then you have to go and change it in every clock in the house. Like my oven, for example, my microwave. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
See, now you say it, Cole, I don't know how I feel about it, because one thing I do enjoy is like a few days after.
Did you get an extra hour in bed?
No, not that. A few days after, the clocks change. You'll find yourself in like an old beaten taxi somewhere, and you know they haven't changed the clocks, and you can kind of have a laugh about it. I quite enjoy those subtle moments to bring joy to my day. I just realised how sad I was in that last
This is such a small return for the inconvenience. I had a laugh with some old taxi driver once who'd forgotten to change his clock.
Oh, Bill.
Good God.
Nah, I would say room 101, definitely.
Yeah.
It's just a waste of time, though, isn't it?
Abolish daylight
In
savings.
the Western world with modern lighting and street lighting and stuff like that as well, there's just I don't see the use case for it.
Room 101.
If somebody wants to correct me on why it's useful, then I'd love to hear off the back of this, but you're
I'd love to hear
probably
too.
wrong as well.
Listen,
Okay, I'm
Buttons
thinking here.
passed.
I'm thinking, okay, right, what one do I actually want to go for here? Because there's some absolute belters. Absolute belters. Yeah, let's go for, black and white thinking and not having a grey area. So what I mean by that, I was actually speaking to Jude Friedman yesterday. Shout out Jude. And that was one of the things I was like, right, I'm doing a room 101. What needs to go into it? And if you've ever met Jude, he's great for a deep chat. He's straight into it. It's brilliant. And he said black and white thinking is so outdated. I heavily agree with it. I think there's so much room for a grey area in every conversation. If you don't have a fully formed opinion or whatever else, so many people think it's left or right, this or that, and having that kind of wee area in the middle to kind of find your ground and take an opinion from, I think is the best place because it's curious.
yeah.
That's my standpoint with it.
Yeah, you see, I don't know what drives us, but you see a lot of people looking for belonging in community. So they need to find themselves in one of the other camps. They can't just float randomly between everything and appreciate everything.
Pretty much ancestral, surviving the tribe kind of thing. You need to be part of the bigger group.
I think that's something I'm good at. If I have any traits, is being able to sympathise and empathise with all opinions and having a cocktail of those within my own worldview. But I have came across people who need to be selective of a tribe or a community, and I would agree, mate.
Yeah, like when you hear one person's opinion on one matter, you automatically know every other opinion and everything else. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? One of mine that I was going to bring up later on, but it links to this, so we'll talk about it just now, is around like people just sharing like really short, punchy aphorisms on like Twitter or Instagram, and it's always around like really big topics like lockdowns and masks and vaccines or BLM or gun control.
Yeah.
And they've just decided that this is now their opinion on it, so they're going to signal to their tribe that this is what I think about this particular thing, and it's very black and white. And it's normally like such short sentences that there's so much room for being like, well, I don't think you want to put that out there, mate.
No.
Like, I don't think you want to back that because you'll be found to be maybe incorrect down the line. Like, I don't know if you remember at the start of the pandemic, but people were like when it was first in China, people were sharing like the beer bottles, like they were Stella, for example, with like a mask on and a Corona was in front of it. They were in like an arrow.
Yeah.
And like obviously just laughing about the coronavirus, and everyone was like, "Oh, I'll never come here and all that."
Yeah.
But like, look at it. 2 years on, we're still being disrupted by the Wuhan flu, and it's funny how people put these things out there, and they're black and white thinking at that point. We're like, "Oh, COVID's like a joke," but they'll be the same people that are sharing like, put on 3 masks, clap for the NHS at 8 o'clock, and do whatever else. Like, it's just it's bananas how people like shift from one to the other and have a very black and white. Whereas if we are open to more nuance, is probably what the grey area is defined, isn't it? We're open to like interpretation either way. And I think David, you said it's one of your qualities. It definitely is. Like you and I have had discussions where we both like shifted perspectives on particular things. Like some of the like really boring for people, but some people, so we'll move quickly on it. But like some of the stuff that David and I talk about for like podcast prep or like editing and stuff like that, or guest preparation, we've both gone in with like an idea, and then we've kind of ended up coming out with like
a combined solution.
A combined solution. And if you were really black and white and fixed mindset on it, then we would have both gone in, butted heads, and then gone away none the better. But we come out of it. Sometimes I've completely shifted David's approach, David's completely shifted mine, or we've come out with a kind of hybrid where we're like, oh, that might work for both our podcasts actually. Let's see how that goes. Let's talk about it, and we can reconvene. So no, I would put black and white thinking room 101 because there's certain things you should be passionate about because it's maybe based on your values and your like how you think and how you feel, but a lot of the time there's definitely room for maneuver or at least open-mindedness.
I think what you say, I've sometimes struggled though, like with belief systems, if it's black or white, and falling into a category where I believe in this for a set period of time, and then you're like, you know what, why do I believe in that? And then you start changing your thoughts based off new ideas you've had, or like you guys say, you come together and make a hybrid idea, you hear somebody else's opinion, it changes your whole perspective. I love that. And I used to be very heavy on, no, this is the way I think. And I think that in itself is such a fast track way to closing the doors on any growth that you could have. If you're in that grey area, you always have different routes. It's like you're walking down a path and you've got two routes. It's like you actually have the ability to choose either one rather than just sticking to what you've always done, or what your dad told you, or what you grew up doing, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's a really crucial thing.
Room 101 for me.
Yeah, agreed.
Sweet.
Shall we do one more each? I think
Yeah,
one more
suits
each.
me.
Yeah.
My one is 2 truths and 1 lie for an icebreaker. I just think it's been done so many times that you just almost lose yourself in the process of trying to find a new fact or lie that you haven't presented in the same groups. And I think as a onboarding mechanism for workplaces, why encourage your employees to lie and lie well? Because when they do, you see everyone laugh and they clap. Like, surely that's like a canary in the coal mine for like future traits in the workplace. Like,
yeah, in the accountancy space especially, this guy is not to be trusted with the figures.
Great lie, Bill.
I just think it's a very unconventional, very conventional icebreaker, and like something like Kahoot, something more contemporary, is more fun as well.
What would you replace it with then?
Kahoot. Have you used Kahoot?
No, never.
Kahoot is essentially like an app on the phone, and it's basically a quiz that has 4 different panels, and you all kind of race to the buzzer, and there's ultimately a winner. And usually you'll see in a workplace some people use funny names, so it comes up with something rude. For example, Norfolk and chance, but when you say it together, it sounds like no fucking chance. And it drives a laugh and doesn't encourage the employees to lie. Maybe swear sometimes, but not lie.
I quite like the what would you never tell your mum and dad? I like that one as an icebreaker.
I don't think that's a good one for the workplace though.
It can be.
It might be, depends. Like your parents might be like super strict and conservative, so you could tell them something like you can't tell them anything.
Yeah.
or it might just be like you've lived this absolute deviant life, and you're like, well, can't tell them this, and your work are like, you will have a meeting with HR tomorrow morning.
Going to get you a couple of sessions with a psyche. Work some shit out, mate.
What do you think, Cole? You've probably used this so many times in your life.
Do you know? See, when you said it, I immediately thought of like dating apps, like Hinge, like a prompt, like the two truths and a lie. I haven't used it in the workplace before.
Have you not?
No. Ours used to always be like, tell us an unusual fact about you that not many people know, and it's always like, oh my god, like
I got the 6% body fat in 06. Do you know that?
I can bench my body weight for 15 reps, so I'll just be like, what? All of Instagram know that, mate. I don't know what. That's not impressive.
Yeah. So room 101. I don't think you're both convinced. I don't think it bothers you that much.
It doesn't bother me massively, but it's one of those ones where there's so much better like approaches to take. Like you said, like maybe some sort of game, maybe some sort of broader question that encourages people to be think a bit outside the box. And I think all it's trying to accomplish is people to think outside the box, but 2 truths and a lie is a bit of a basic entry point.
Yeah.
So, unanimous decision?
I fire in.
We can put it in there because I'm not going to miss it.
Yeah, doesn't make a difference to my life.
Last bill in the chamber for you, Cole.
Okay. That's kind of corporate. So is this. Starting every email with hello, I hope you're well. And it's not I hope you're well with a question mark on the end, which is a question. It's just I hope you're well as a statement. And by making it a statement that you use in every single email, it's completely insincere. You don't mean it. You're just saying it because that's what common practice dictates you should do. Anytime I ever use it, I put a question mark at the end or I change it. I'll be like, I hope you're having a good week so far. I hope your Thursday's been successful. Something silly like that. Not silly like that. Something different like that. Because hi, I hope you're well as a statement is just completely insincere. You don't mean it. You're just saying it because it's habituated. And when I get it, I'm always like, you should just got into the body of the email because you don't actually mean that.
Yeah.
Like, if you meant it, you'd be like, how did you get on last weekend? If you knew, like, I was up to something, like, use that rather than just, I hope you're well.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
I found myself, my eyes just default to the body of the text. What are they asking me? What do I need to do? And then...
So would you just compel them to get rid of it?
Yeah. Or just, like, have something that's unique to the recipient. Like, we spoke the other day about having a personal CRM. For example, I know someone at work that's got an Arsenal season ticket, so I'll be like, oh, did you enjoy, hey James, did you enjoy the result of the weekend? Or what did you make of XYZ's performance? And it opens a bit of discussion before mental discussion for them before they get on to what they need to do for me. And I think by having the hi, hope you're well intro to emails, it then invalidates that phrase in the public. So if you're going to go see a mate, like, how are you? It invalidates how much you mean that. Because now I've noticed myself having to say, how are you really? Because everyone has that generic response in real life.
Fine, mate. Cheers.
Fine, mate, you. No, it's always fine, mate, you. Good, mate, you. And they just rhyme it off. They don't even think about that answer. And I think it invalidates those discussions that need to happen in real
Some
life.
people greet each other with how you doing, mate, and they don't expect to be asked to reciprocate. It's very
Absolutely
funny.
fantastic. This has been happening in my life. Fuck, conversation.
Just say all right, mate.
yeah, fucking hell, yeah.
No one ever replies properly to a, what's happening?
But nobody ever replies properly to hi, hope you're well as a statement. So I don't normally reply, hi David, I'm well, thanks for asking. How are you? Because if you just said I hope you're well as a statement, you're not asking for a response from me. You're just telling me that you hope I'm well. It's a really strange bit of decorum in my opinion, and it just gets my...
So you better be well, because if you're not, I'm fucking can't be arsed chatting to you about anything.
Yeah.
So please be well, mate.
And I just, now saying that, I think it just, there's a mental signal in my head that this person's insincere. So the rest of the body becomes insincere to me. Whereas if they opened up with something more personalized, I'd be like, they care, therefore they care about my opinion or result or solution to whatever they've got in the main body of the text. I've had podcast guests that have asked me for certain content or certain things, and you can see the waffling, the fluff around it. And I'm like, mate, just get to the point. You want something from me, just tell me. And it makes just them as a character more of a facade and insincere.
Do you think when a podcast starts as well, when you hear a guest ask the host how they are, or the host ask how the guest is, I always find that really unusual as well, because we know, like, everyone knows that they've been talking before it starts. And I'm always like, why are you asking how they are? Like, or unless it's like, how was such and such? I think specifics are like much more valuable. So like, how are you after last weekend, or how are you after that particular result, or whatever, is much more meaningful. And I think that's an element of specificity. If I've said that correctly, probably not. That can go room 101.
That's a tough fucking word to say, mate.
Specificity. Oh, goodness me.
Specificity.
This is the trailer clip.
Specificity.
I'm out at this point. I can't manage.
One more time.
I'm done.
For the Patreon.
You know what? I'll
Individualizing your greeting at the start of emails is the way forward.
Yeah, love it. Yeah. It's funny you say that. Like a client actually asked me the other day. He's like, sent me a voice. I always send voice notes, and a client actually voice noted me back, and they don't always do that. And they're like, Lewis, you're always asking me how I am. How are you getting on? And I stopped in my tracks. I was like, wow, how am I getting on? And it really actually stopped me for a second, because I'm always in busy brain mode, just going through them like go. And when you actually get stopped in your tracks and somebody actually that you don't expect to ask it does ask it properly, like it's nice. That is nice. And the same for those emails and stuff. Like if you come in with that personality and it's personable to the person. It's great. That's where you're going to get better.
How specific is it though?
I don't know. How specific?
Very specific.
You need to get a CRM built in, man, just for talking to my mates.
We genuinely spoke about this yesterday. I wonder what that says about how we're neurologically wired, David, because we were talking about when you've got particular individuals that are quite important to you, either in their seniority or their as a customer. For me, understanding little bits about them in terms of like things that they've maybe told you, and you retaining that information will set you apart from most other people that they deal with, because we're all busy, we're all forgetful, we all deal with so many different people. So David was talking about this personal CRM, which a lot of people who maybe don't work in corporate won't be familiar with, but it's like this customer relationship management system where he is retaining information on set individuals. So for example, Lewis is very partial to cinnamon and raisin bagel rather than a plain bagel. Silly stuff like that.
Things like that.
But remembering these things is really, really valuable when it comes to like other people. So David and I were talking about, I'd offered a client to get their coffee, and I now have on record on my email what their coffee order is. So if I rock up to their office next time, I can bring that coffee and they'll be like, wow, this guy.
I actually saw you post that. Something about you got a couple of guys at Greg's Coffee.
Yeah.
That you were working with.
It makes a tremendous difference.
But then again,
that's amazing.
is that doing that because you're using that for leverage, right? You're not doing it to you in this context. You're not using it to derive an emotional connection. You're doing it to create culture capital that you can ultimately leverage for an outcome.
Yeah.
Is that
build a connection as well? Because see, if you have to work with somebody on a big project, so I'm going to work on a project with them next summer, I'm going to spend a lot of time with them. If I get on with them, it's just going to be much better. It's not just about the fiscal return. It's also like, I'd quite like to have a good relationship with you. And if me knowing your coffee order shows that I want to have a good relationship with you, then that'll be very, very good. But completely agree that from a sociopathic perspective, which sometimes we all have to act like that to get to the top or get to where we want to be, it is worthwhile remembering like
good service. Like at the end of the day, it's good service.
What was the initial room 101 item? Oh, hi, hope you're well. That was the initial item, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's going. Yeah,
Good rabbit hole we went on.
That's going in room 101 for me.
Yeah. Terrible, isn't it?
Fuck it off.
Yeah. Is Lewis on the last one
I
then?
think you're on the last bullet.
Well. There's two that I'd like to discuss.
Which one's going to be the most controversial?
You know what? I think both of these is going to hit home with us all. I'm going to go for the one about not being open to discuss mental health, and not being able to take, again, ownership of changing your position if you do struggle with it. And I say this, one, you done something with Slaters, which was awesome. I thought that was a really good piece. You know my background. I'm coming from this as a standpoint from it's a scar, not a wound, right? And for anyone who has struggled or is struggling with mental health at a moment of time, but continues to not want to seek help for that, or is quite closed off to speaking about it, right? From my standpoint, the hardest thing is having that initial conversation and opening up about it, but trying to actively change your circumstances to be in a position to do that. I don't know if I worded that right, but do you see where I'm coming from here?
Well, I'm not sure what I'm taking from this, but if it is what I think you're trying to say, I vastly disagree. You can't just get people just to talk. They need to be in the right environments. And I'm saying that from my dad, who suffers from mental health conditions. And he has bottled that up for years and years and years. And we speak about this openly together recently and for the last year. The only time he started speaking about his mental health conditions is when he was in an environment in which he could feel free to do so or encouraged to do so. So it's not as simple as just being like, you need to talk. Or
100%.
He went to essentially the Royal British Legion because he was a veteran. And when he was amongst ex-comrades, that's when he opened up and we identified there was something wrong. So perhaps like there's a whole environment aspect to that. But for him, he couldn't just open up. If I told him, Dad, you need to open up, or how are you feeling? He wouldn't tell me. But I get what you're saying. What kind of avenue you're going down?
For me, it was tough to word, but when I was able to open up personally about what I was struggling with, it wasn't with best friend or family. It was actually with clients, because they were the people I was spending most time with. I felt more comfortable with them because they didn't know my background, what I was doing in my home life or anything. And when I was with them, I was almost away from that. And I think like now more than ever, because it is something that people are talking about. Like, do you see that post that's been going about on social media? It's like, hey mate, do you want to go for a coffee or a pint? I think sometimes that's a great prompt for it, but it's never as easy just doing that. Like what you said about what your dad had to go with all people he used to like be in the army with and stuff. I think you need to provide the person with the situation that they would feel their best, and for that is again, it feels like still quite a struggle to kind of give someone the platform to be or say what they want to say in the right situation.
Is your challenge then with people who refuse to try to enter those situations?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's what I'm trying to work here, and it might have not came across super clear, but from people I've spoke to in the past that have therefore got over their hang-ups and found an environment for themselves to be super comfortable in, it's came down to where they've not been forced into it, but they've found themselves in a place where they can be open and free about it, you know?
And this is one that I find contentious only because it's so easy to see life through your own lens.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say I haven't suffered with mental health conditions, or I haven't at least...
Not diagnosed.
Not diagnosed.
I'm the same, David, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But, so I can't see through the lens of someone who has.
Yeah.
So I kind of struggle to kind of personify that. But what I kind of in a similar vein, what I would put in room 101, and it's something I'm probably experiencing myself, is masking perhaps diagnosis of a mental health condition or symptoms of a mental health condition by achievement and moving forward and forcing yourself into that red zone all the time. I think that's something I know I struggle with. And it's in a very similar vein, but that's something I would put into room 101.
Yeah, the interesting one for me is probably slightly related to that, is like the mass self-diagnosis at the moment of I'm depressed, I'm anxious.
Yeah.
Because that is a very serious label to throw around. You can have depressive periods or anxious periods, and I feel anxious about certain things, but I've never identified as having anxiety because it's a very, that's a very deep thing for you to embrace, and then you need to deal with that. So I do think there are labels thrown around now which are unjust. And there used to be an advert on TV. It was like a footballer, and it was about men's mental health and like speaking about it and like seeking actual help about it. And like the goalie strip was like anxious on the back of it or something like that, or anxiety, and it was about wearing your label. And I don't know how helpful that was, but I do think there's a lot of people now who maybe they're not speaking about it to the level that you want them to, Lewis, but they're speaking about it enough to say like, oh, I'm just an anxious person, I'm just a depressed person. And you think, well, if you always talk about yourself like that, you're always going to suffer with these challenges. And I do think there is an element of speaking about it a little bit, enough that people are maybe aware that you've got some challenges that you are struggling with, but not speaking enough about it to work through it with either a professional or an environment like your dad entered into to deal with it.
What you just said there pretty much rounded up what I wanted to take from that. Like,
I think we're all preachers of this, just ultimate transparency and telling the truth.
I think
with the right space though as well, because
space.
I think your dad is a great example you've given us, David. If he unloaded about maybe things that had gone on in his head after serving in the war, if he did that to the wrong person, it might actually be a step backwards for him in terms of how he feels.
Yeah. No one would relate to it properly, you know.
And then he would be like, oh, I identify as somebody that's got mental health challenges, and he wouldn't have moved any further forward. He would have recognised and identified, but he wouldn't have taken the steps forward that he maybe needed to.
So transparency in the right channels.
Yeah, I thought even when I wrote that down, I was finding it hard to word because it was like, I don't know, just as hard to word.
Do you know, in a longer form conversation like this, it's safer to put it out there than if you put that in an Instagram caption, because somebody might have jumped down your throat and said you were either being unfair about mental health, or you were being too like wishy-washy and too embracing of people just declaring themselves as depressed, or you were being too unfair on people who are struggling, like you're not helping them. Like, it's a very difficult conversation, and everyone's going to fumble and maybe not use the perfect terminology at times. So having it in a longer form conversation like a podcast is and I hate the term safe space, but it's a safer space to have a conversation like that and come forward with a bit of a, I don't want to say diagnosis, but a way forward. You were saying there about transparency of conversation in the right environment. And
I think what's important is none of us are trained medical professionals or psychologists or therapists, but we're just presenting, I guess, life through our own view on that. So I can't put that in or out of room 101, but I think that was a really powerful discussion for me.
I just wanted to open it a wee bit on the floor while we're here, and I think what you said, for me, summed it up perfectly of what I truly wanted to say. And people saying things as a tag. I think younger people growing up now, they say, oh, I've got anxiety, before they know what fucking anxiety is. Or I'm depressed, before they even know what that really is. And they say it from a young age, and all through their life they have that narrative because they've created it for themselves. And that's one thing that I feel that I kind of wanted to pinpoint there, that don't attach yourself to something that you've not truly maybe experienced.
Yeah, and all that's been done, it's being said. They're not doing the discussion with somebody who's maybe qualified to support them, or even just getting into an environment where they can actually manage that, or find out how serious that particular word that they're throwing around actually is for themselves.
Yeah.
So to end on a more light-hearted note, should we go to the followers of Instagram and see what they have
Rummage
suggested as a room 101 item? I can go first. I've got quite a bizarre one that I want to bring to light that I laughed at when I read. And that is... Let me find it. So many people replied, by the way, saying, oh, what's your pet peeve? Loads of people replied me, so I'm quite hurt by that. But this one particularly...
Do you have a lot of trolls?
Seems that way, mate. But this
Doing
one
something
was,
right then, if that's the case, you know.
I found this particular room 101 item really funny. When my barber gives me a nose wax without asking for it.
Forced hair removal.
You ever been to a Kurdish barber?
No.
I got my head set in fire once.
Really?
Didn't want that.
So basically, unwanted cosmetic treatment.
I mean, that obviously room 101, like forced removal of hair. Like, to be fair, the guy was maybe doing him a favour if he had a really hairy nose.
Yeah.
Because that's not a pleasant look, is it?
No.
Nobody's like, it's not as if he shaved off a mustache that he was growing out and he was quite happy with. It was a case of, you had some nose hairs, mate, and they need to go. He was doing him a favour.
So,
But forced removal of hair, I'm against. You have the right to consent to hair removal.
I'm with Colin.
I'm with Colin on that.
Yeah, you have to be able to say yes or no before somebody goes sticking whatever it is to remove the hair up your nose.
Colin, your turn. What's your fancy? Your followers?
I've got quite a few. One that I think we'll all like to discuss is the 5-day working week. It's so old fashioned. So by that I would think like the Monday, Friday, 9-5. We're moving past that now. It's probably you in the corporate environment, David, seen that more than ever.
Yeah. I don't know what your workplace is like at the moment, but and it varies in my workplace, depends who you work for, but we don't really adopt the 9 to 5 anymore either. And I think that's been amplified by working from home. You can log on a bit earlier, have a longer lunch for the gym, and perhaps log off a bit earlier if you complete what you do within the day. And I do think the framework of a 9 to 5, like specific 9 to 5, is outdated. And I just don't think we're designed to work in that model either. Like, to get the best out of us efficiently and in terms of quality, I don't think that's the right framework. I can't remember the exact quote Naval Ravikant said, but he was talking about intellectual athletes and basically saying that we need to train, then sprint, then rest, then reassess, and then sprint again. And I think having a model or a working day that kind of supports that would get the best out in me. And personally, I work in those Pomodoro cycles, 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. And within those 5 minutes, I'll lace myself with dopamine. I have reward. I'll go on my phone for 5 minutes, read a line of a book, have a Twix or 12. But that's how I work.
If you really let yourself go, is that what you're telling us?
This is a coming out
it's
party.
A confession session. But
This medium t-shirt hides a multitude of sins.
I think the philosophy of working like a lion and not a sheep. Don't sit and graze your work all day. Do fucking powerful bouts, and then step back is the best way to work. So 9 to 5 is a bit flawed. I think you got out of the office a wee bit later tonight, but
yeah. Well, I was just preparing stuff for tonight.
There you go.
Do you think it's easier to work longer in the winter though? I'm starting to find that at night.
Personally,
really?
no.
I find it easier to work longer into the day in the winter because it's dark and rubbish outside anyway. Whereas in the summer, I'm like, I want to go out and like go play golf, or I want to go outside into the sun.
Yeah, I think that's probably unanimous, 100%. Because I think in summer you have a greater concept of time by looking out the window. You can say, oh, the sun's starting to go down, it must be there for 5 or 6, I better get out and enjoy the last of the sun. But now the sun sets about 3 p.m. You're going to be in work anyway.
5 and 6 p.m. to me on my laptop when I'm working at home on a really admin intensive day is just the same to me, and I hate it because my most effective time is much earlier in the day when I've got more energy for decent level tasks.
My productivity's been fucked just this winter. Yeah, I've noticed this massively. Like, my days feel like they need to be shorter. Like, it gets to like 3 and I'm like, well, it's best logging off, and I'm like, what, 3 o'clock? Still got like, I'm somehow compressing the amount of work I would do, but usually if I go above and beyond, but my natural triggers are just like starting to drop. Like, and even in the morning with it, you know, being so frosty and cold and dark, I'm like, yeah, I can't really be fucked with those steps. Can't really be fucked kickstarting my day. But in summer, it's like 6 a.m. Here we go, feeling good. I could crack on till 9 at night if there's sun. And I think that's just, I don't know, just the way of the beast in it.
Yeah.
Room 101 for me. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. The working week's outdated in that respect.
How's it look? I don't know if they're trying to implement a Monday to Thursday working week, a 4-day working week or something. Do you think you'll get as much work done?
Just depends on your environment and where you work. I think perhaps you'll find people still working Monday to Friday or just working later hours Monday to Thursday that might lead to burnout. I don't think it'll get the most out of people. I think just everywhere should adopt a kind of hybrid home and office flexible working pattern all around. I think that's the best approach. Like work Sundays if it means you can get Wednesday off and do something that's valuable to you. I think having a flexible model like that's a more robust and more efficient way to move forward.
See, people, obviously I'm not like yourselves in terms of obviously working for the man. But you see like your co-workers and stuff like that, again, if they're maybe not working as hard as you, or not even saying that, but just doing the bare minimum. Do you think the 9 to 5 gives them almost the platform to get away with that?
But, I think actually it can be empowering to some people. Like the whole Parkinson's law, right?
Yep.
If you assign a task, if you've got one thing to do that day and you just attach it to a 9 to 5, you might just take 8 hours to do that. And perhaps I have found myself sometimes, depends on the nature of the task, how much you enjoy it. If it's something quite laborious that I don't enjoy, I'll find myself wavering into 6, 7 o'clock with it. Because there's no Parkinson's law.
It's how our brains are wired, isn't it? You can't beat evolutionary psychology, can you? As much as we want to think we take personal responsibility, sometimes we are just monkeys that go the way that our chimp brain wants us
chimps.
to. Yeah.
Room 101 for me.
Yeah, cool.
I think you're the last one up in the hot seat with your room 101 from the followers.
Oh, yeah, I actually got pretty crap ones. Any of the followers that actually listen to this back, no offense, but
I've got a few good ones left.
Do you want to save us in call? Or have you got a good one there, Lou?
You know what? None of these even merit getting in this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, no gym etiquette.
We talked about we need that specificity.
Yeah, specificity. Is it festivity?
That's so much better. How have I not managed
I'm
that?
not even going to try.
You're from the posh end, I know.
I know.
Right.
So we spoke about gym etiquette, but we spoke like about like individualized, clear examples, which is much better. Whereas just saying that's not good enough. One of the things we spoke about, an overarching theme, bad manners. One colleague typing super loud in the office. That's not on, is it?
Both saying noise cancelling headphones. Don't hear a thing.
Eating loud as well.
Yeah, that was on
Just
here too.
Just
yeah.
being obnoxiously fucking
don't like
loud.
people being loud. Yeah,
I've got that.
Right. Okay. A spelling one. People trying to lose weight. You can't lose it as they can't even spell it correctly. That's absolutely savage.
That is savage. That's the one word that you see. I don't know if it's because we follow it
in the fitness space. Yeah,
you see that everywhere. That is a funny one. I'm trying to think if I've got one more. Let me see.
I've been really guilty of that in the past. I think I'm borderline dyslexic, and that's not me identifying as dyslexic, but I have been.
You put out your long captions though, Lewis, and you're not rereading them, mate. They're getting banged out.
It's a one take. Pretty much like every bit of my content. It's been done once. Don't have bandwidth for doing it again.
I think that's us.
I've got a few political ones, but we're going to steer away from them. The last one's kind of fitnessy related. Any fit bro who decides to lecture or actively not lecture people on how to eat, train, or be at Christmas, please get in the bin.
Yeah, 100%.
Just unsolicited advice from your local shred guy.
And
Fuck off.
So they come from like one or two extremes. It's either, yes, you should train as hard as you can at Christmas and track your macros and get a code for a pure gym in the morning to work off the turkey and the stuffing. And then it's the other people are like, no, like eat whatever you want, be free. Your
Self-love.
body. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Like we should all just take a rational choice of do whatever you want to do.
yeah, that makes you happy during this period. That we're suffering from harsh winters just out of many lockdowns. Just do what makes you happy for a short window of time, I think. And if that's training really hard and sticking to your calories,
because that might give somebody fulfillment,
control,
and that's great.
Yep.
I like, we both know that I quite like having control, and I do train on Christmas Day, but it's part of the day it breaks it up, rather than like me sitting pestering my mum and being like, oh, can I help with the turkey? No, Colin, get out of the kitchen.
Remember,
you've
girls,
not been in here for the other 360 days of the year.
If you spike your insulin with a Terry's chocolate orange at 9 a.m, it's okay. But if you also go deadlift in your garden, it's all right too.
That's
do
good
what you
too.
fucking want.
In a Santa hat as well for the drum.
Yeah.
That just reminded me. I had Santa hats for us, and we've just wasted that for you guys. But honestly, guys, thanks for joining me for a very off-brand podcast, I guess. But it's been
a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. It's been such a
Absolute
laugh.
pleasure.
And like I said, both of you and Paul recording this have been instrumental in the podcast, and it's my favourite hobby. It's my favourite time of the week, and you've all guided me on the way to, I guess, continue to do this. And we all know the statistics of how many people have dropped out of podcasting after one episode or 20 episodes. Paul, Colin, you've just hit over 100 episodes, so congratulations
Where
on that.
you at, mate?
40.
I got to episode 8 and then done a private one. Episode 37 now. We're getting there. We're getting there.
But thank you guys,
Behind the
honestly.
paywall.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyway, I massively appreciate
Thanks
it. It's
for having us,
been
David.
absolute legend of an experience. Cheers, man.